Welcome, DC Builder, to Wholesome Crypto. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you again for also taking the time out.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, you've done so much already in the crypto community. I've seen your writing and your articles, and I know that you're a full stack developer, and in the crypto world, that's super needed and definitely something that everyone's looking for. But before we get into what you're currently doing and how you're living your life today, let me know a bit about what you were doing before. Like how did you first even get into tech?
Yeah, that's actually a funny story. Well, the tech one, the one how I got into tech was a bit earlier. It was when I was like 14 years old, so like 6 years ago or so. It
Hmm.
was when our teacher at school taught us about like building sites with HTML, CSS, like basic website building. And so, yeah, I learned there, and I found it that our resources or like the things that he taught us were pretty basic. And so I went online and then searched for more, and I eventually stumbled upon Free Code Camp, which is like a website that teaches people how to build websites. You have like interactive code editing,
Hmm.
and you can see in real time what you're building within the site. It renders the code that you're writing
Yep,
real
I've
time.
used I've used that before too myself to learn some HTML and CSS. But
Yeah, and so I did some front end development for some time. I went up like writing HTML, CSS, then JavaScript, React. Well, React didn't exist at the time, so we had
mhm.
like jQuery and some other things. I don't remember.
So what year was this around that you started like first learning
It
front end
was
front end development?
2015. I was 14. Yeah, 2015.
2015. Wow. Oh
Yep.
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, for me, like I remember first getting a computer at home and seeing like a DSL modem to like get internet and like using a phone line for that stuff. So it shows my age a little bit, but it's crazy. Like you get to quickly grow up with a computer and get right into it.
Yeah, I was a lot into games. Like that was I always had like a computer or like a console. I used to play a lot of the PlayStation 2 and then the
Yeah.
Wii, like the Nintendo Wii.
Hmm.
Yeah, those were my favorite consoles. And I always played games. Like I played a lot of League of Legends at the time.
I never got into that one. I was always like,
Yeah, it's very addictive. I don't recommend.
yeah, I mean, I was Diablo 2, Warcraft 3 type of guy, so
Yeah.
I got my fix before League of Legends got too big.
Yeah. So that's like I was like on the computer all the time, but playing games. I wasn't like doing anything productive on the computer besides like some schoolwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, were you learning this at school thinking, oh, this is something I'm actually interested in, or was it just like you're finishing your homework?
No, this was just like pure curiosity because at school we only were doing like basic sites, just like basic structure. We didn't do anything more
Hmm.
in like IT class, and so I just found it interesting, and so I was just like building these websites. I like the way that you could like design it, like make it like functionality. You click a button, it shows like a pop up or whatever. So I just like found this interesting.
Hmm.
And eventually I just like delved deeper into like watching videos on YouTube, like looking at what you could do with this because I knew that web development wasn't the only thing. I knew that someone had to create the games
Yeah.
or someone had to, like program this elevator that I'm writing, like for going to this story. So like I just started looking at what else could be done, and eventually, like this is a little bit later, like 2 years later, after I started programming websites, I stumbled upon a presentation from Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA,
Hmm.
and he was talking about how simulations in virtual reality could train robotic hands to perform surgery
Yeah.
on patients. And so I found this very interesting. So like the whole robotics, AI, ML thing, very interesting. So I started learning that, and I quickly realized that there was a lot of math I didn't understand. I was in like the second year of high school, so I didn't have like a very good background with math. Like no one does at that age
Yeah.
almost.
But that's awesome. You're
Yeah.
interested in it.
Yeah, I just found it very interesting. And so I decided to go learn the math that I needed to do those things. And so I went on Khan Academy, which is a nonprofit in the US that
Yep.
teaches people math and physics and all of the subjects.
Hmm.
And so I started learning some math there, so like all the way up to calculus,
Wow.
some calculus, then some multivariable calculus and linear algebra, which is
Yep.
a like a requirement for ML, especially for representing data. Like data is represented as matrices,
Hmm.
and all of these matrix operations are defined through linear algebra. So I had to learn all that. Then when I finished all of the courses that I needed in Khan Academy, I moved on to MIT OpenCourseWare. So MIT has like the US university has a lot of open public content for people.
Yep.
So I started doing those courses there. So it was like an expansion on the things that I already knew. And I also did some ML courses on platforms like Coursera and edX.
Wow. So a
So
lot of your education's through the internet, huh? Like
yeah, like
I guess school
I would
wasn't
consider, like,
that
yeah,
helpful.
almost everything that I learned or that I know or that I use nowadays has been learned online. I learned like the basics, like
Of course.
cultural things, like art, culture, like history,
Hmm.
geography. All of this I learned through school. Also, like some basic English. I started learning English like at 5 years old. It's my third language.
What
So just for
languages?
context,
What languages do you know?
I was born in the Czech Republic,
Okay.
and so Czech is my native language, but I'm also half Cuban,
Okay.
and so I learned Spanish as well. And then when I was 5 years old, we moved into to Spain, and so like most of my upbringing was in Spain for like from 5 years old to
Okay.
14 years old. So Czech and Spanish are like my native languages, and English was taught at school. So English eventually became the main thing because
Mhm.
everything that I was learning was in English. And I eventually started thinking in English because it was more convenient and I wanted to learn the language more. So I just decided to willfully start thinking in English. And whenever I didn't know how to think of this thing, I just like looked up the term for it.
Yeah,
So
a
yeah,
lot of coding is all the like
yeah,
English language.
I'm consuming a lot of content on YouTube. I think that's the thing that improved my English the most. Just listening to other people speak constantly
Hmm.
and just like thinking about it. Eventually, like my speech as well started to look more like the people that were speaking instead of just having an
Yeah,
accent.
your accent's great. I mean, I could barely notice that English
Yes,
wasn't your first language.
yeah. Some people can say that I'm like Eastern European-ish.
Hmm.
I have friends that can tell the difference, but yeah, like most people do not like tell right away that I'm from a specific country.
Sure.
Yeah, and so started doing this AI ML things, just like building some models, with TensorFlow and Python. So I learned Python for doing ML because it's used like it's used a lot across data science and machine learning. There's a lot of tooling built in Python and libraries that are built in Python. So like started
Yeah.
learning Python, then pandas for data manipulation, some data visualization libraries, like Matplotlib, Seaborn, and then some simple machine learning libraries like scikit-learn, which is like the basic one that you learn at first.
Hmm.
Then I started getting into some more involved libraries like TensorFlow. So I did some of that. I did some deep look of YouTube. Some I got an internship at a company where I did some what do you call this? I forgot the name for the word. It's visual recognition. Yep, visual
Okay.
recognition.
So, okay,
Yep.
facial tracking and
Computer
stuff like
computer
that.
vision is the term. What?
Like facial tracking too.
Not that, but a
Okay.
subset of. So the space is called computer vision.
Okay.
So anything regarding like analyzation of images.
Okay.
Yep,
Got you.
yep. And so at the company, we had a client that was like a farming company, and so they had to count how many wheat plants were on a field, and so I had to build a model that just classified. Like counted how many wheat strands were in the field and like calculate sort of the density of how many wheat strands are per meter squared and things like this. And
And
so I was building like these models along with the CEO who like it was just like a small company. It was
yeah,
him, some two other people, and me. And so I just started learning from him because he was studying mathematics and he was very into ML at the time. So he taught me like most of the things that I was doing.
nice.
Yeah, so I was doing that for a while.
Was like agriculture any part of your interest, or was it just like
No,
I
it
just
was just
love
like it was just
machine
like
learning?
I had an internship and I could apply the skills that I was learning online.
Hmm.
Yeah, and make some money on the side. Yeah.
Nice. Wow. So yeah, I guess growing up, you're really working on just self learning, self teaching,
Yeah.
figuring
Yeah.
out how to excel in what you love, and
Yeah,
then
it was just pure curiosity at this
yeah,
point. Yeah.
that's awesome. I mean, that's what always leads people to different like. That's like a passion project, Like your
Yeah, for
passion can
sure.
actually guide you into a whole new career path.
Mhm.
And that's awesome
Yeah.
that you did that.
Like I learned from because I was a lot into self-help at the
Hmm.
time. So I was pretty hooked on video games and I started like having problems like real life problems with that.
Hmm.
Like you have your eyesight gets worse, you stop exercising, things like that. And so I tried to get better.
Hmm.
And so I just started learning and people just said to me, it's like, try different things. I was like, yeah, sure. So like I was trying different things that I liked and like my curiosity drove me pretty much.
And that's like the thing, because it sounds like you have a like very. I guess once you're interested in something, you kind of just go all in. And
Yeah.
now that you're, I guess, moving from video gaming to learning how to code machine learning languages and AI, was that like your new vice? Was that what you're
Yeah, for
just
sure.
hooked on?
Yeah, I tried to play as little games as I could,
Hmm.
and whenever I had the urge to play, for example, like League of Legends, I just watched the stream instead of playing myself because it's less toxic. You know, when you're in the
Yeah,
game, you are actually involved in the game, and so when you're
you can't
losing,
look
you
away.
actually get mad. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so when it's happening to someone else, it's you can laugh at that, right? Like someone is mad, but yeah, you know, it's like he's losing the game. You know, so it's like that was like sort of the thing that helped me cope with whenever I had an urge to play.
Hmm.
And it was also funny, you know, like people also make these like shortened videos where they like do a recap of everything with funny moments and things like that. So like that was like my coping mechanism whenever I needed to play.
Nice. Well, that's good that you found
And,
something that works for you. And yeah, for me,
yeah,
video gaming was a big part of my life, especially in high school and middle school, where I'd wake up
yeah,
6 a.m. in the morning just to like see if my items have sold overnight.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, wow. At one point, I think I got like scammed or hacked or something, and I lost all my whole account. Like I lost everything I worked so hard for.
yeah, yeah,
And I was like, you know what? This is just, I hate this. I don't care anymore. I'm done. So
yeah,
my way out was just getting hacked, and I was like, it's not worth it. But I still play
yeah.
games time to time. I'm like, maybe like play CS:GO or something that's a quick 20-minute fix, and I'm done.
Yeah, yeah. I also play some games with friends now, especially like friends from crypto Twitter. I'm
Hmm.
also part of Wife is Anonymous, which is a group of people that are either anonymous or pseudo-anonymous, and we enjoy anime and manga.
Hmm.
And so we just oftentimes like just get together in a game and play together for a while.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, we've also been playing like CS:GO and League sometimes, just like a few games. But yeah, like, just for fun to kill time.
So then, how did you first like hear about Bitcoin? Like, did someone tell you about it, or did you find it on your by yourself?
This is actually the funny story where I got in crypto for the tech.
I mean,
So
that's
I
a
was
good reason. That's why
like,
you should be, not for the
yeah,
money.
I was 17 at the time. It was 2018, early 2018.
Hmm.
And so I was watching this channel called Three Blue One Brown. It's a mathematics channel. It's
Hmm.
about math, and it does a lot of visualizations of like how does these concepts actually look, and you know like the visualization of these. For example, what is a derivative, right? A derivative is just what's the slope at a function at this specific time. So he would just like draw these crazy illustrations that illustrated in a way that is very comprehensible. And so one day he just published a video on like what is Bitcoin and cryptography and how does it work. So I just click on the video because it's a video from one of my favorite YouTube channels, and so
Gotcha.
I started learning about this. So that's where when I first heard of like what's proof of work, what's cryptography, what are hash functions, you know, why is this important, and what is Bitcoin and how it came to be.
Wow, that's the first time you ever heard of
Yeah,
Bitcoin. Like, not even the news or the media or anything like that.
yeah, yeah. Well, I did hear something on
Okay.
the internet, but I didn't pay attention to it.
Hmm.
Like people were talking about money. I was like, I'm 17. You know, like I have like $500 in my bank account. It's like everything that I have. You
Yes, true.
know.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah. This was the first time that I heard of Bitcoin. Yeah,
And then what happened? So you heard about it. You're like, oh, this is pretty interesting stuff. Cryptography is
yeah.
pretty
So
cool. And then
yeah, he made a sequel video about like teaching hash functions and how hashes work.
you did?
No, he did.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Reborn Brown. Yeah. And so I just like started learning a little bit, and then I like the usual. It's a rabbit hole, right? So I just started googling more, or like
Yeah.
searching on YouTube for more videos, and eventually stumbled upon the Ivan on Tech YouTube channel, which is actually a funny story because that's how I got my first job.
Wow.
So I was watching Ivan's streams. He did a stream every single day at 8 p.m. 8 a.m. Central European time. And so since he's in Sweden, right? It's the same time zone for me. So whenever I went to school, I got a train, right? So I live in a small village,
Hmm.
and I always had to take a train, or I had to take a train like an hour and a half to school each
Wow.
day. And so whenever I was in the train, I downloaded the episode from the day before and watched it on the phone on the way there. because it was just like interesting,
That's
right? I was just
perfect.
learning more. Yeah, and so whenever I had the time, I was either watching it or like reading some articles online. Whenever I had time, whenever I wasn't in school or with friends.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's how I started learning more. So like, I started learning about Ethereum. What is Ethereum? Like what is Monero? What is like all of these coins that were popular in 2018? Like XRP.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
good times.
yeah,
XRP, Litecoin.
yeah,
What else was there?
Nano and like all these Ethereum killers that came to be. Like,
Lisk, good
yeah,
times.
also like Ethereum Cash. Like no, Ethereum Classic, like the fork from the DAO
That
for like
was an
all.
intense
Yeah,
time.
yeah. So all of this was like new to me, right? And I just started learning. And Ivan, since he did like these market covers and explained the concepts
Hmm.
in a fun way, I just started learning and consuming it passively. And yeah, after a year and a half of watching his streams or so it was like summer of 2020. He posted a joke posting in his YouTube channel. He was looking for altcoin researchers.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So,
And so I applied and eventually got the job after an interview.
that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I was doing front end development work. So I was doing another internship at a company, and at the time I was building sites in React. So I
Okay.
was doing like some React Next.js sites, and yeah, and so I applied for the job. I got it. So I quit the internships that I was on and started working, writing articles about different altcoins and like measuring their potential. Like talking about the project, what are they doing, and so this is how I started working in blockchain. It wasn't full time; it was very part time,
Yeah.
and
You're just looking
yeah,
up coins and like writing about them, just a
yeah.
brief
Yep.
summary.
Yep. Yep. So this was just when I finished high school, the summer of 2020. I just like the month before, like in June, I finished high school,
Hmm.
and so I was expected to go to university, right? And so I applied to a computer science program in Prague,
Nice.
at Prague University.
Hmm.
And so I started learning computer science there. And so I didn't have a lot of free time, and I saw the crypto markets pumping a lot, and a lot of missed opportunities. I don't have
Yeah,
time,
that's a
I would
hard.
like to,
It's
yeah,
the worst emotional roller coaster
yeah,
ever. Is like, oh no, I missed it, or I got into it, then you lost.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
You're making me feel like flashback of trauma just watching the roller coaster rides back in 2017.
Yeah, so I was very active during crypto summer, and DeFi summer especially.
Mhm.
I was an early follower of Bankless, of the Bankless guys.
Yep.
So the podcast, I was in Bankless before the podcast even started, when it was just a
Nice.
newsletter. So I got like the POAP, like the 2020 Bankless POAP, and I watched like all of the Bankless podcasts. So I knew about Compound before they released the token, and like about Uniswap. I used all of these applications, and Ivan also talked about them often. And so I used all these applications and eventually got the airdrops for most of them on several different
Nice.
addresses. And so this was like, I didn't have any money then. And so like these airdrops were like how I got started pretty much. It's like I got scammed in June of
Ah,
2020.
shoot. Sorry to hear
Like I
that.
wasn't very, it wasn't a lot of money, but for me, like it was a lot at the time. It was like 1K
Yeah,
US.
it's a lot. And that's
Yeah.
also getting
It was
scammed is
it
just
was
a
all my
terrible
savings,
feeling.
all my savings as a student, like as a
Yeah,
high school student.
that's
Yeah,
tough.
so I was devastated. But eventually I got new private keys and started using these protocols and got the airdrop. So like those like that's how I started again. With
Was it like someone like hacked your account or like a bad website you've connected your wallet
Yeah,
to?
I just yeah, it was about Metamask account where I connected my like I always had a hardware wallet, and
Hmm.
so I don't know, I don't remember exactly how, but I somehow thought that it was the real Metamask app, and I typed in my seed phrase for the ledger instead of the Metamask, and so they got like everything from that.
Oh man.
Yeah, so that sucked, but
Yeah.
it didn't
Lesson
suck for a
learned.
long time. It was like I had a jobs, like yeah, I can like sustain a little bit of like because I still lived on with my parents. I still live with my parents currently,
Hmm.
so it's just I just got some money that I can spend on things that I want, and the rest is just fine. It's like I don't really care. It wasn't that much at all. And so I eventually got the airdrop. So I got started with DeFi, like using these protocols, learning. And so that's sort of like how I got started in crypto, right? So I just eventually, from like these 2 years of watching Ivan, I already knew how to use dApps. I knew a little bit of Solidity because he ran this Ivan on Tech Academy.
Hmm.
Now it's been rebranded to Morales Academy, like with everything that So I work currently at Morales. Like it's the company's been rebranded a lot from Ivan on Tech Academy to Morales Academy, and then Morales,
Oh,
which is a
okay.
yeah.
It's the same
So
company. I
Morales
didn't
is
know that.
yeah, Morales is a Web3 development company. So we build tooling for developers to build decentralized applications.
Hmm.
We build the infrastructure, right? Instead of querying the data yourself from an RPC node, you use a Morales server, and that has index data on a database which you can query from our APIs. So
Okay,
that's sort of like where I work at currently.
that's cool.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's how I got started, like just playing around with DeFi. Eventually, I looked into some NFTs, and it was like in December 2020. Eventually, Ethereum gas fee started spiking. Like
Yeah,
it was 25 gwei, which is kind of a lot because the first time I used Ethereum was like 5 gwei or like 4 gwei. So transactions were very cheap.
it was supposed to be cheap. That's the whole like advertisement of Ethereum. Like, cheap transactions,
Yeah,
less than Bitcoin. Now it's way
yeah,
more.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and so these new chains started to come up, right? So you had like BSC, which was meant to kill Ethereum. It was like Polygon OS, XDAI, some other side
and
chains.
EOS too. That was
Yeah,
back in the
yeah,
day.
used. Yeah, I used all of them at the time. Yeah, and also Tron and
So many Ethereum killers.
yeah, and I also wrote articles about these like protocols and applications in the Alchemy report. So like whenever something new came up or I viewed a new protocol, something like this, I usually researched it and wrote about it in the report. So that's sort of how I came to be, like how I learned the basics, of DeFi, NFTs, interactions with dApps, a little bit of building. I already had the background in front end development, so that wasn't a problem. But I
Yeah.
learned a little bit of Solidity. I learned a little bit of how to use tooling like Truffle and Ganache, which are tools used to test on a local host locally. You get a local blockchain on which you can deploy smart contracts and play around with them, right? And so, yeah, eventually the Alchemy report turned into the blockchain review,
Okay.
which is a less speculative version of the same product. So we just rebranded as the tech review. So it's just
Mhm.
like reviewing blockchain events and protocols instead of
Yeah.
giving non-financial financial advice.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what people always like get so hooked on is how do they make money? Where is the money at? Where's the market trend? Like, doesn't matter. It's like the tech is what's important.
Yeah, yeah. So eventually rebranded to that, and it was also around the time that Ivan pivoted from being like a YouTube person, like a YouTube personality, to a builder.
Okay.
So he was also always a builder. He had the academy and taught a lot of people like the basics of Ethereum, how to build smart contracts, all of this. But he wanted to the people at Morales or like the Ivan and Tech people wanted to build something for the community and for like the space, and so they eventually came up with the idea for Morales. So that's how sort of it got started, and that had an influence in us as well.
Mhm.
So we started like caring more about the tech. I did a lot of developer reviews of different protocols. I went over smart contracts, talked about them.
So your job was really to stay as agnostic as possible with the
Yeah,
technologies,
yeah,
and I guess from what you write about today is it seems like Ethereum's your favorite
yeah,
choice so
mhm,
far.
yeah.
But is it still like the only? Has it always been your favorite, or did you like learn that it was your favorite? Like, how did that become like?
Yeah, it took some time to build the conviction I have in
Mhm.
Ethereum now. It took me time because I saw all these chains that came and died eventually, and like it was very profit driven for most of them.
Mhm.
Like EOS raised $4 billion, and
Yeah.
like now these $4 billion sit in an account doing nothing almost. Like there's no development there.
Yeah.
Like these current. So how I came to liking Ethereum more than others was just because of the community, mostly.
Hmm.
I started watching a lot of the Daily Gwei videos from Anthony Sassano.
Yeah.
So he's an Ethereum educator. He built ETHUB, which is a site that documents, or it's like a good documentation site for everything Ethereum. So how it works, explains a lot of different concepts. They also have a good podcast, the ETHUB podcast, where they review weekly news in Ethereum. And so the Daily Gwei is just a podcast and a newsletter that covers everything Ethereum that happens each day. So he has like five every weekday he puts out an episode on just covering the news in Ethereum. So I
Wow.
read and watch all of those content,
Yeah.
a lot of that content, and so that's sort of how I came to like Ethereum over other things. because he put the things, he put the changes in a light that I understood. And when I saw what's going on in other chains, like BSC, they just took the EVM and a chain with less validators and that are stronger. So it's just like compromising decentralization and security completely, just for the sake of having more transactions, because Ethereum was congested. Like nobody's going to pay $50 for a swap on Uniswap.
Yeah.
So their logic was like, let's just spin up a chain where the block size is bigger, transaction fees are lower,
Yeah.
and yeah. So like that's sort of like what I didn't like in these other chains. Eventually, some more like intricate projects came out, like Solana or Avalanche, and like they already were there, but I didn't know about them at the time. Like during April, I started like looking at these other chains, and they also like do compromise security to some extent.
To
It's
make
like everything.
transactions more
Yeah.
fast, right? Because they're a little bit more centralized.
Yep. For example, with Solana, they have like 1,000 validators, which all have very beefy nodes. So the nodes, to operate a node is very expensive, and this hinders decentralization, especially when the nodes have to keep upgrading the
Yep.
hardware to keep up with the chain. And so this is sort of a thing that I don't like. Also, their state is not available in their full nodes. The state is like the archive state of the blockchain is in Google Cloud, as far as I know.
That's
Well, that's sort of what I know. Like as
yeah.
far as I know, this is how it works. So you
Okay.
have like the recent state, which is able to be queried by the node, but like the old state from the blockchain is archived, and that's queried from an API that's provided by Solana. And I don't remember where it's hosted, but yeah, like that's sort of how it works.
Yeah. So that's a lot of So you're doing a lot of research and
Yeah.
understanding of all these different projects, and
Mhm.
Ethereum seems like the still the top contender for
Yeah.
blockchains.
Long term. Yeah, for long term, of course.
And for at this time, I guess for Bitcoin, you were still seeing it as a monetary value, or was this
Yeah.
just off your radar? If
Yeah.
you
So Bitcoin was relevant to me until like March or April 2020
hmm
or so. No, 2021, excuse me. So like March or April of this year. Right. So around this time is when I discovered like the ultrasound money meme created by
yeah.
Vantas. So it's like the deflationary supply with EIP 1559 and POS, where so proof of stake has 90% issuance reduction in Ethereum inflation. So
hmm
currently Ethereum has 4% inflation to pay out to miners along with gas fees. And so these fees will be reduced by 90%, which is equivalent to 3 Bitcoin halvings or so. Like that. That's sort of like, so Bitcoin is like 50% reduction, right?
Yeah.
So if you do 50% 3 times in a row, it's the same as doing 90% at once. Right.
Okay.
So this is one key aspect that I enjoyed. Then EIP 1559, which burns most of the fees that are generated by the network,
Yeah.
and some other things. But if you couple these two things together, it makes the supply of Ethereum deflationary, whereas Bitcoin has a hard cap, but Ethereum, under these circumstances, so proof of stake plus EIP 1559, is deflationary or has a decreasing cap. So then, like Ethereum's monetary value started being less and less important to me, especially as I didn't have any wealth to preserve since I wasn't wealthy at the time,
hmm
right? I didn't have much money. I just like I liked Ethereum more
Yeah.
and the platforms we're building, and since I didn't care about preserving wealth, I was just like, yeah, this is interesting to me, and I sold all my Bitcoin for Ethereum in like March
Wow.
or big or like yeah
Going
March
all
for
in. That's good.
yeah. I also had some like DeFi coins and whatnot, but yeah, like all my Bitcoin that I had like long term storage went into Ethereum. Yeah.
So now that you're all into Ethereum, that's where you're working as in you're doing your full stack development and research for Morales.
Yep. So
And
within Morales, I
Mhm.
only do research
Okay.
currently. So I do research and write about various different things. And the blockchain development thing span off of just like my personal projects. I have a lot of free time. So like you're in crypto full time within Morales, but then like it's never just full time, right? It's just you're
It's
putting many more hours. You're on Twitter. You're
crypto
talking
is
to
24/7. It's not. It's
yeah.
nonstop job. Anyone that says, "Oh, I quit my day job to work in crypto," you just move from a 9 to 5 to a 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much what I did, right? So I do research there, but then when I have free time, I try to transition to a full stack blockchain development role.
hmm
And so I took on this mentorship from Ethernaut DAO, which is a DAO that turns Web2 developers into Web3 developers,
Ah, cool. That's awesome.
right?
So you're in this now.
Yeah. Well, I already finished this,
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah. So
Congrats.
mentorship I got was from Austin Griffith. So Austin is an Ethereum builder, and he builds Scaffold ETH, which is one of the most important projects for blockchain developers.
Hmm.
It's sort of like it's a scaffold, right? It's a template which anyone can just download and start building off of. And what it allows for is to very easily interact with smart contracts you build. So you just deploy a local blockchain, you build a smart contract, and when you build a smart contract and deploy on the chain, the front end that Scaffold builds for you visualizes all of the functions that the smart contract has, all of the constants, all of the variables that you need. And so you can easily interact with the front end in order to interact with the smart contract that you've built. And this is like a very good tool. And so within Scaffold ETH, the people that are building it have various different branches with challenges to build with Scaffold ETH. So you can build like a simple AMM with Scaffold
Hmm.
ETH. You can build integrations with protocols like Aave or Uniswap. You can build a
Wow.
simple NFT project. You can build with oracles and Chainlink. You can build like various different things that the community builds, right?
So it's making it easier for developers to just jump
Yeah,
on.
and try stuff. Yeah,
Hmm.
and just hack around. Yeah, so that's sort of how I started transitioning from just basic front end development, that experience that I had before, and some Solidity experience that I had from like the Avalon Tech Academy and some online courses and some other things that I read.
That's
And so yeah,
awesome.
I went through the Ethereum Dev Speedrun, which is Austin's sort of like pathway from like somewhat experienced in programming
Mhm.
to full stack blockchain development. So I went through this, like I built several different projects, like a multisig, an AMM, some other things. And so I currently finished this. And I currently am just building some pet projects, if you will, where
Mhm.
I'm just building cool stuff that I found online. I was also recently in Lisbon, in like a
Uh,
ListCon
oh, you were
Lisbon.
there?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
so I with some friends we built an NFT project where we took an NFT from someone, like a user. The user logs into the platform. It was called Manifest.
Mhm.
So the user logs into Manifest. He submits his NFT, and what we would do is we would take the image from the metadata and submit it to Scalable Press, which is an API for doing merge, automated merge.
Okay.
And so we generate merge for the NFT that you have.
Cool. Okay, so
Yeah. So
mhm.
automatic merge generation. And this worked in a way where I took the image and I created an NFT of the image of the NFT that you're minting a merge from. And whenever you burned the NFT that we created for you, you could redeem that burn for the merge, right? So let's say that an artist has an NFT and he wants to create shirts for his friends. So
Mhm.
he issues 10 NFTs out of his NFT and like gives those 10 NFTs to his friends, and then those were able to be exchanged
W
for a T-shirt to their house.
would they only be, 10 T-shirts allowed to be made? Or how would that work?
That's up to the people. That's up to the person that owns the original NFT. So that sort of like was being able to you'd be able to choose from the UI, like if you want to mint 10 or
Okay.
100 or whatnot. Yeah.
Well, so it's pretty much you can't just upload and drag and drop a PNG file or something. You have to use
Yeah.
your
Yeah. Yeah, because the
Ethereum.
NFTs are provably generated from the original NFT, so you need a signature from the owner. You
Wow.
need to validate that the owner of the NFT was the one that generated this secondary NFTs. It's sort of similar what Fractional.art is doing.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know, but I was recently on a podcast with the OKX Insights team. So it was me, Andy 8052, which is the CEO and founder of Fractional Art,
Mhm.
and then the OKX guys. And so yeah, we talked about like what Fractional Art is doing. So they're doing something similar, but just generalized, right? So you can fractionalize any NFT and turn it into ERC20 tokens, ERC721s, or ERC1155s. So you could just fractionalize NFTs any way you
Yep, I've
want.
seen
And just
those.
it's up to the community to create something off of that. So if I were to create the same platform today, I would just use fractional.art for the fractionalization step and then hook those NFTs to an API and build like a centralized sort of thing, because it's centralized at the end of the day. It's you're dealing with merge and you need an address to send it to
Yeah.
a person. Yeah, so it's like a semi thing.
You're in a lot of different projects, huh? Like, how do you keep track of all this? What do you do to like, I guess, to take a break from crypto in your day? Like what hobbies or like exercises? Like
I don't.
you, d- you can't break
Yeah,
away free, huh?
yeah, it's like I do have some free time, like I try to exercise and like go outside. If but it's very cold outside nowadays, so it's
Yeah,
like
same here. I'm afraid to go outside. I don't want to put on 5 layers of clothes.
yeah, yeah. So currently, I'm just either building or researching, writing, shit posting on Twitter. One of my favorite pastimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think uh, yesterday or 2 days ago, there's a lot of drama going on Twitter
Yeah.
about Zoo saying something he's
Yeah.
abandoning crypto, but
Yeah.
uh,
Abandoning Ethereum.
Ethereum, sorry, yeah, but
Yeah.
he's not. So it was just funny seeing so many people posting and worried about it. I'm just like,
He
what the?
actually did quit Ethereum to an extent. He like a lot of his capital went out, but yeah, like it's you can see this on Twitter. He's like,
Yeah,
it's a lot of drama around like why Ethereum is not scaling. It's like I don't know why. It's like there's a lot of people that have incomplete information and give biased opinions.
yep,
Like I'm also biased for Ethereum, for example. Like I support Ethereum more, but just like there's many people that cannot rationalize their own opinions and just are back biased, so they
exactly.
just advertise wherever they have the most money into.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's like
exactly what I wrote about. I just posted an article the other day about called "The Blind Men of Crypto." So looking at blockchain as a whole is what's most important. Like different
yep.
technologies, different crypto projects working on making what they think is a better blockchain,
Mhm. Yep.
and no one's really not nobody, but most people aren't trying to be deceptive or trying to be greedy or trying to just take over the entire industry. And there's no such thing as an Ethereum killer or a Bitcoin killer or some one coin to rule everything. It's just, that's not how humans work. That's not how innovation works. People
Mhm.
need to have variety. People need to try different things. And even if it's someone doing their own blockchain, it's just what they're going to do. And expecting, I think, everyone to migrate to one coin is unreasonable and just not going to happen. And it's not a bad thing. It's okay that it doesn't
Yeah.
happen. That's why we have bridges. That's why we have interoperability. And that's why we have different coins that do a really good job at one specific niche.
Mhm. Yeah, I understand sort of the multi-chain reality that we live in currently,
Hmm.
just because it's pragmatic, right? Ethereum currently cannot handle the load or the demand that's currently being put onto it because we have a lot of new users
Hmm.
that are trying to use blockchains. A lot of them have been onboarded through NFTs and they want to trade. They want to get these NFTs that I don't know. You see people like I don't know, like basketball players
Yeah.
that buy
Sports.
apes, right? And so
That's
if you
so
see,
funny to me. I'm like, why are you buying apes? Like, what's it to you? But
yes,
they're
it's the
loving it.
community, right? And
It's
so
fun.
whenever these people like their followers see this, they're interested in it, so they start learning about it, and now they see. Oh, so he got it for this. So let me get another NFT which is cheaper. And now they see, oh, but I have to pay like $40 just for the transaction, right? And so that's a bummer for many new users, and that's sort of like where this sort of problem arises, that there's some real estate to be taken from Ethereum if you just spin up a chain that uses some other consensus mechanism
Hmm.
and has lower fees, but this is still a trade-off that many people take. I'm fine with the trade-off. Like if you know that you're taking a trade-off and that you don't care as much as about security and decentralization, but you want these NFTs to be cheap to mint and to trade, then yeah, I'm all for it. You can use Solana, which is a pretty popular NFT marketplace. You can use Avalanche, that has a lot of forks of different DeFi protocols on Ethereum for cheaper. But eventually, all of these blockchains, when they reach their capacity, their gas prices will start spiking again because
Hmm.
at the end it's just an auction for gas. If your blocks aren't full, then it makes sense for the blocks to be cheap. Like the transaction fees to be cheap. But once they're full, people are going to start competing. That's when the mechanisms start kicking in. And so that what I want to teach people is just know that these blockchains eventually will start spiking in gas prices, and they will not be as decentralized as Ethereum at that point.
Hmm.
So what Ethereum is doing is that it's modular in a way that you have the Ethereum L1, which is scaling to some extent, but it's not compromising the decentralization and security. What else is doing is prioritizing these two and using so-called L2s to scale
Yep.
further. And so what L2s are There are platforms or networks that use cryptographic proofs, different types of cryptographic proofs, either fraud proofs or validity proofs, in order to ensure that transactions are valid, submitting all of the, instead of doing all the computation on chain as Ethereum does with the EVM, you do the computation off chain. You generate a proof, right? A proof of the transactions that happen, and you verify that these transactions are valid. Once you have this verification, you submit this proof to Ethereum mainnet, and then the smart contract on Ethereum mainnet verifies that this is valid. And once it's valid, it commits the state changes to the mainnet, right? And so that's sort of how it works, right? You can scale a lot more this way because you don't have to do all of the computation on chain.
Yeah.
And so this allows for a lot more scalability without compromising any of the security guarantees that Ethereum provides. So that's sort of how I see the future of Ethereum scaling.
Yeah.
Right? You have platforms like Arbitrum, Optimism, which are optimistic rollups, also Boba and Metis, which also fall under this contract category. Then you have zero knowledge rollups.
Mhm.
These rollups utilize zero knowledge proofs, which are a very fancy
Mathematical.
very fancy mathematical like cryptographic proof that enables you to directly verify that state transition is valid. And
I loved your
what is
article
that?
on this. It was great. I
Yeah.
remember reading it, and you give a really good rundown on how L2 works in term projects and what they're doing and their own pros and cons. And that was great. I mean, thank you for writing that too. That was
Yeah, thank
educational
you a
for
lot.
me.
I got a lot of amazing feedback on that. Like I submitted the tweet with the article like 6 days ago, and since then I've gotten like 1,500, like 1,500 new followers
Wow,
just from the article.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I just like doubled my followers and just from the article alone. It's insane.
That's amazing. That's the thing is like a lot of this is if you put in work and put in good quality content out there, people will recognize
Yep.
that and follow it and enjoy it. And that's why I'm glad to have you on here to, talk about yourself and learn more about the person behind the article, person that's working so
Yep.
hard to provide this good content because like you said, you grew up learning from other people online. And now
Yep.
this is like your way of giving back to the community for other people to learn from
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So, sort of, I didn't really talk about my ulterior motivation to the things that I'm doing currently, right? I was just
Mhm.
like saying, so I was interested, right? Curiosity. A lot of this was curiosity, but it was driven curiosity,
Yeah.
right? I was trying to find the technology that fitted my profile of interest the most, whilst also enabling me to have the biggest positive impact that I could have.
Hmm.
And so after so I came up like with web development first, right? I didn't know anything else. Eventually I discovered AI and ML, and I still find AI and ML very interesting and a big part of what the future
For sure.
beholds. But the thing with AI is very hard to make an impact, right? Because you're competing with the likes of Google, with the likes of Amazon, Facebook, all of these gigantic companies that own most of the data, and it's also very hard to contribute anything new because it's a space that's been researched from the 1950s, like from a computer science point of view.
Hmm.
Like like even Alan Turing, which was a very good computer scientist in the 40s in the past century, he was already talking about like, can we consider a robot a human if we cannot tell the difference? This is like the Turing test,
Yeah.
right? If you cannot tell the difference between a human and a robot, is he really a robot?
Yeah, I
You
would
can,
probably argue that
yeah,
not
yeah.
anymore because we're just thoughts and processes.
Yeah, so this space has been very well developed, especially from the academia space,
Hmm.
right? Academia is on a very high level in terms of AI. So you'd need to spend like 10 years just researching and learning about AI ML to contribute something new to the field. Like you have to have a PhD, do your thesis, and then research. It's like very hard if you want to contribute that way. If you want to contribute from the entrepreneurial point of view, you would have to compete with these gigantic companies, which is also not viable. And so when I arrived at blockchain, I felt, wow, like there's so many things to be done, and like there's almost no one doing them.
Hmm.
So it's a space that has a lot of capital, and there's a very big drawdown for talent. There's
Yeah.
barely yeah, there's just like a few people that are able to build these protocols, and I saw like, wow, like this is very interesting. I can do pretty much anything. I can tap into any industry because it's very generic, right? You can build something that's in DeFi, so financial primitives. You can build NFTs, so cultural primitives or social primitives with like social tokens. It's just like very wide. You can target pretty much any industry with
Mhm.
crypto. So that's sort of why I gravitated towards blockchain and like crypto in general, because it allowed me to contribute a lot more to humanity, or like in general, like to people, which is sort of the thing that drove me, like just helping people. Because like I always like felt really privileged from like childhood and everything. I was very like my parents always provided everything that I needed. Like I always had
Mhm.
a house, everything. I didn't struggle in my life like ever. So it's something that I feel that not many people have in this world, especially if you consider how big the population of
And
people
that you
is.
also recognize that too. Some people have
Yeah,
everything, but they don't even recognize what they have,
yeah,
so they don't get to grow from it.
yeah. It's just like I've been exposed to this since like I'm half Cuban, right? So like
Mhm.
half of my family is from a very poor background, and so yeah, I've seen this. Like I've been there 2 times already, and so that's sort of like what gave me this perspective. Like that's sort of like what expands your view, where
Mhm.
you see how you have it better than other people. And if you consider countries like I don't know, like inner line China, where there are farmers that just farm their entire lives and
Yep.
basically have enough for a living, or they're slaves in a factory, or they're like struggling for food, and so many people that don't have like basic human necessities. And so like it's just democratizing resources and making all of these processes more efficient. In crypto we call it slaying Moloch. This
Okay.
is like Moloch is this construct where it comes from Christianity, where like Dave is like this knight that slays Moloch, which is like this beast.
Mhm.
And so Moloch in crypto terms is inefficiency. Anything that's inefficient, whether it's market inefficiency, whether it's coordination inefficiency, like how you structure people to create something, right? In companies, you have a lot of inefficiencies, right? But in DAOs, for example, there's a lot of problems which are solved. And so that's like this is what drove me to blockchain the most. You can solve all of these inefficiencies to democratize resources for the entire planet, making everything accessible. And so long term, that's sort of what I see this going, like just making everything available, whether it's social communication resources, financial resources, just everything
And that's
together.
most of it. Yeah, it's like the beautiful thing about blockchain in general is that it's solving all these issues and problems and
Yeah,
giving the power back to the people. And like you said, there isn't enough people working on blockchain today. I mean, we're in a
yeah,
community, especially on crypto Twitter, like that's what we live and breathe. So we think it's a little bit bigger than it really is, but it's
mhm.
not. There's still
Yeah,
so
especially
much
if you
growth.
consider, yeah, especially if you consider that many of the accounts on crypto Twitter are just alts of other people on Twitter.
Yeah, it's always people like different projects and different alts just saying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
my
It makes
job
it
here.
feel weird. Yeah, when I was in Lisbon, I had like 1,300 followers at the time, but like 100 people recognized me there just from my like whenever I said my name, like my DC Builder username, they'd recognize it from Twitter. So like
How'd you feel like a
it was
celebrity?
small. Like crypto is small. Like how do so many people know me? It's like
Mhm.
why? It's like yeah, it felt a lot smaller than what I thought it was.
That's man, it's amazing that
Yeah.
that you're growing so much in the community so fast. And I definitely want to ask one of the questions I always ask everybody is that, what made you smile the most recently? Like it doesn't have to be crypto related, but it could be. Like
Wow. Um, I think that the things that make me smile the most are just memes in general. It's just like, for example, yeah, the latest thing that made me smile. So, I have a friend from crypto Twitter. His name is Fiscantes. So
Mhm.
he's a partner at Z Prime Capital, which is a VC fund. And so recently he got COVID, right? And
Ah,
so he
shoot.
lost this sense of smell.
Mhm.
And we were talking with a friend about like COVID and all of this stuff, and we posted a tweet that we didn't know how this thing smelled, and I asked, like, I tagged Fiscantes,
I think
could
I
you
saw
tell me?
that.
Yeah, so he was very angry at that. Like, so he has these so he has his Twitter persona is Hisoka. Is it's an anime character from an anime called Hunter x Hunter.
Mhm.
And so he has Pepega memes that are edited to look like Hisoka,
Okay.
right? And so he posted this Hisoka Pepega that was very angry because he couldn't smell, right? So that's sort of like the thing that made me smile the most, like yesterday. Yeah.
I love that you have such a strong community with your Twitter network, and yeah, just like it's nice to see that, and I love seeing it when I'm looking scrolling through Twitter, seeing what you're up to and seeing what everyone else is up to. Like just the wholesomeness of it sometimes is like what I look for.
Yeah, it's especially I lost a lot of social contact with real humans. You know, it's like I was
Especially during
isolated.
COVID, it's hard.
Yeah, for 2 years. I was allowed for 2 years. Like I was at school at
Mhm.
university, but I've never been at the actual school. It was like
Oh, wow.
it was remote school, right? So I never met any of my classmates. That was one of so I didn't say actually that I quit university.
Oh,
In January. So after the first semester, I was like, "Oh, this is so bad. You know, I cannot even see my friends. Everything is remote, and I see all of these people in crypto. You know, like the market is going up. So Bitcoin just broke like 20K in
mhm.
December, right? We broke the previous all time highs, and so I was like, wow, everything is happening so fast. I feel like I'm missing out. I feel like if I were working more in the report, I'd be able to, like capitalize more on this, learn
Yep.
more. Right. So I was just like had this big FOMO. I just decided to quit like on the spot. So I just like called my dad and said,
How do you take it?
yeah, he didn't take it well. Like he was
Yeah,
like,
I'd
"Oh,"
imagine.
like I just randomly called him like out of nowhere. Like he didn't expect this at all. And so yeah, it took like 2 weeks for him to calm down for a bit. And then I gave like a presentation on sort of what of the things that I want to do and look moving forward. And after I gave that presentation, he was understanding and he sort of saw the same things that he went through when he was younger.
Mhm.
But in before, like 20 years ago, it was much more important to have a degree than it is
Yeah, for
now,
sure.
especially if you consider IT. Like IT doesn't require a lot of credentials that are formal
That's all
credentials
proof of
nowadays.
work for IT now.
Yeah, proof of work, but proof of good
Yeah.
health. Proof of code, right? So yeah, like after I presented all of this evidence, he was more understanding, and now it's very support, and he's very supportive. You know, like he sees that I'm doing what I love. I'm traveling to places, meeting people I like. You know,
That's the
so
thing, exactly. Because yeah, for me, college was mostly, meeting people, networking,
yep,
getting connections to advance my future, advance my career.
yep,
Educationally, it was good. I mean, I learned things, but I always like, the teacher taught me some stuff, then I went back online to YouTube to learn it in
yeah.
a different way. So it's like internet taught me things, and college was a really good network, or
Mhm.
university was a really
Yeah,
good
and
network.
especially I had the background, like learning on Khan Academy, MIT
Hmm.
Open Courseware. I already knew like 90% of the things that I was learning at university. I already knew because I had to learn them for the AI ML things that I was doing. Right. So a lot of the math I already knew, like discrete mathematics, linear algebra. They were just like just relearning the same things. And I felt like, wow, so I'm here, I'm not learning anything new. I'm not meeting any of my friends. I cannot
Hmm.
leave my house. I'm feeling bad because I have to wake up each day. Like it's dark. I have to learn from my own room. I don't leave my house, and it's very depressing, right? I also had like some personal issues at the time where my girlfriend left me. So it's like I was very sad,
Yeah,
and
sorry
so
to
I
hear that.
just saw crypto like going on, and I had all my friends in crypto. So it's like it doesn't make sense for me to be in university anymore. So I just quit, and like that's sort of how I went full time. I just quit and started doing my own thing full time in crypto.
That's amazing, and I'm glad you are. I'm glad to have met you, and yeah, I consider you as a friend too now. So you got another one. And keep going, man. I love seeing what you're doing. I'm excited for you and your future, and I really appreciate you spending time speaking with me today.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I also consider you my friend. You always like comment on my posts. Like every like, I loved about you the fact that you had wholesome crypto in your name. It's like I always thought about like wholesomeness as a whole.
Yeah, we need it.
Yeah, we need it. Like we're always like fighting, like being tribal, but we forget like the motive that we're in this to help people, right?
Exactly.
Like being comprehensive, like understanding each other, being lenient and like sort of empathetic with
Hmm.
one another is sort of like what I liked from your profile.
Thank you so much, DC. I appreciate your time, and thank you for everyone else.
Been a pleasure. See
See
ya.
you
Bye
guys.
bye.